All right, we will see how this goes.
Yep.
Hey, brother.
Hey Al, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. And welcome everyone back to another episode of Siblings in Crime. I'm Allie Rossell,
And I'm Blake Murphy.
and just as it sounds, for siblings who love true crime.
Yep.
So hopefully we have video for this. Hopefully we even have audio for this.
Hopefully we
Obviously, it
have
looks.
anything for this.
I know. Obviously, it looks different. We're trying it in different states this time around, see if it works since I didn't get to Arizona this week. So, fingers crossed, everything goes smooth. If not, we will be back trying again shortly. All right. Well, talking about this week, what was your highlight?
My highlight was I went to training in Florida and it went well. It was a lot of work, but it went well. A lot
Good.
going on, but it was fun. Not fun actually. Um
But Florida's nice.
Yeah, I was supposed to be there for like 5 days or gone for 5 days, and I cut it down to two. Just
Dang,
being
that's excessive.
efficient, jump
Like
seating
that.
instead of flying on the flights that Allegiant got me.
I'm impressed with how much you jump seat and how you're willing to do like red eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I yep, I go
Very
hard,
nice.
but
Proud.
yeah, that was good.
Nice. I'd say my highlight, I started the Be Hard to Kill TikTok. So go take a look there. I ran 16 miles on Monday since I didn't get to do it on Saturday because I was working. Um, so
Nice.
I've been trying to run a lot and just starting that TikTok so that when the time comes and we host our own runs, we kind of have a little bit of Team Tim content before then. But who knows how long it's going to take. So we're up and running, making baby steps, all the good things. Well, leading into this story, I want to start off asking you what, Blake, would you say is like your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is to be kidnapped by hillbillies
What the heck?
and locked in their basement.
You're joking.
No, hillbillies terrify me.
What the heck? I've literally never heard that before. Does that come from anything? Do you have bad experience with hillbillies?
Amanda show.
Hilarious. What?
Yeah,
That is a throwback.
I know.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I would not have guessed that.
yeah.
I was gonna ask if it like most commonly it's like heights, the dark. I was gonna ask about the ocean if it spooks you. The reason I asked about the ocean, the only experience really I have with the ocean, one, I'm scared of not being able to see what's under you. But also, remember when we lived in Hawaii and I was getting sucked out to sea?
Oh yeah.
I,
With
I
Darby.
yeah, I was like, I swear, I was like, I'm never gonna see shore again. I was so far out. I was like, I don't even see the beach anymore, it feels like. And I can't surf. I'm on a surfboard. I'm like, no chance I'm catching anything in. I'm back beyond the waves. I'm like, there's no waves anymore. And but you're on the shore trying to help, right?
Yeah, I know what to do. I've never been in that predicament, but yeah, I was trying to help.
Yeah. And it was unfortunate because then me and Darby, we finally just boogie board our surfboards in and crash land on like these rocks and it was horrible. So since then, I've been a little more spooked by the ocean tide. But the reason I wanted to ask is because for today's story, it just seems so impossible. It almost sounds made up. And last week we did a classic true crime, a murder case. So I kind of like to mix it up, doing just kind of unbelievable stories along with like survival stories, missing cases, etc. So this week is just going to be an impossible story that is actually true. And so this is what we're going to go into today.
Let's do it.
In the dead of night, a violent storm swept across the Atlantic Ocean, and this capsized a small tugboat off the coast of Nigeria. Within minutes, the vessel was swallowed whole, plunging over 100 feet down to the ocean floor.
Jeez.
11 men were instantly killed. But one man had a different story than the rest. And somehow, because of that, we have his story today. And so today we're going to actually go into the story of Harrison Okene. I think that's how you say it, Okene, and his crew. So that's going to be our story. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for
All right,
this.
let's roll. Before we get into the shipwreck, let's talk about the man at the center of the story, which is Harrison Okene. Also, side note, if you hear any whining, Buddy, our dog, right here, trying to get into my chair. So you may see Buddy's head right here occasionally. But Harrison was born and raised in Nigeria, where he grew up in a deeply religious. His mom was a devout Christian, and it sounds like he wasn't super into it when he was younger. Took him a little bit to grow in his faith, but he did end up becoming very much like his mother when it came to Christianity. He, as a child, grew up wanting to be a soldier, and for a while he pursued that dream. He even attended military school, but was ultimately rejected from the army, and so it left him with few options. What he ended up doing was looking for as a job for as a cook. So I guess he was a little chef. He loved cooking it up, and
Wow.
believe it or not, he would
Like
never
Brett.
like Brett, yeah,
I'm
Chef
just kidding.
Brett, like, yeah, compared to our family, we're always eating out, and Brett's so good at staying eating in.
Yeah.
Watch out.
My number one expense was
And so he
QT.
was a cook, but he would have never imagined that he would actually be a cook for a ship crew. And so he ended up working at sea, preparing meals for the crews working along Nigeria's coastline. So I did not know that was even a job occupation. I was like, I didn't know. I actually don't know what tugboats were doing. So I didn't know they were gone long enough to need a cook. But
Makes sense to me.
yeah, I suppose, I mean, I imagine cruise ships, it makes sense. I just didn't know how long these guys were out there. But I was thinking they're having PB&Js and funding for themselves, not an actual chef. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't really know what tugboats even do. Just tug
Yeah, maybe you should look
things
that up
into the
real quick.
harbor,
What? Told
like
people, yeah.
tug bigger ships into the harbor or something.
Maybe. I don't know the facts. I only know that he was a chef. Maybe look up the actual tugboat. I want to see what a tugboat looks like. So look up the tugboat because I want to see.
Okay.
Even though this wasn't necessarily the life he dreamed of, it paid well enough to support his wife, which her name was Akpavona, I believe, whom he had married just a few years earlier. He loved her deeply and often spent his free time writing love poems for her. And it's just something that she treasures today. So he sounds like a little romantic guy. He actually is like so precious because he's been quoted in the past saying that he feels like he's the only one that's ever been chosen to protect her. And I'm like, look at him being like a good little supportive spouse. So he had a great family. Oh, thank you. Did you find out his purpose? Okay, that's kind of what I pictured. It's not kind of smaller than I was imagining, actually. Thank you for pulling that up. But Harrison, like I said, was more than just a husband and a cook. He was a man that really relied on his faith, and that's going to be really highlighted in our story today. Every single morning, he prayed to God, thanking him for another day. It was a ritual that he really just never ever missed. And on the morning of May 26, 2013, he did just that. He woke up, he said his morning prayers. Little did he know it would be the prayer that saved his life.
Oh,
So now we're in May of 2013. Harrison woke up at 4:30 a.m. like his normal self. He had such a strict routine. He'd wake up, say his prayers, go to the bathroom, start his duties. That was like his thing. So Harrison woke up at 4:30 a.m., groggy but ready to start his day. The Jaskin 4, which is the name of the tugboat, um, was out at sea assisting an oil tanker about 20 miles off the coast of Nigeria. So he was assisting an oil tanker. So he has to do something with actually tugging these boats.
I
I don't know
know.
what kind of like it must be a pretty strong boat to be able to assist these other larger boats, but
That's what it said.
oh, good.
Yeah.
So the ship was quiet. Obviously, it's early in the morning and the crew was still sleeping. As part of his morning routine, Harrison made his way to the small bathroom near his cabin. He was sitting inside when, without warning, he heard a deafening boom. The ship lurched violently. He was thrown forward as the entire structure groaned and tilted sideways. Then an explosion of ice cold water came crushing into the room.
That's
It
spooky.
Oh, it just sounds horrifying. It slammed into him with brutal force, knocking him off his feet before he could even react. The ship was flipping over and the ocean was sucking him down. His body was spinning violently as the tugboat capsized, then plummeted 100 feet straight to the ocean floor. Then everything went still. For a moment, Harrison didn't move. His lungs burned, his head pounded, and his body shook violently from the cold. His mind screamed that he should be dead, but that he shouldn't be breathing, but somehow he was. I can't imagine this scenario. I don't do well in cold water. I can't imagine being now you know that your boat is sinking and you're trapped inside. The air was thick, damp, and stale, filling his nose with
What
the
air?
sharp, is what I'm gonna say,
Oh,
filling his nose with the sharp stench of fuel and rusting metal. His throat was raw, his chest tight, and with every breath he swore he could hear the oxygen thinning around him. He blinked into the endless blackness, but there was nothing to see, only a suffocating void that pressed against him from all sides. Cold water lapped at his waist. It's icy, it felt like ice, shocking him to numbness through his legs. Slowly, his trembling hands searched the space around him, fingertips tracing jagged metal and floating debris. He didn't understand how he had survived. One moment he had been ripped from his bed, tumbling through a nightmare of roaring water and crashing steel. The next, silence. Somehow, in the chaos, he had ended up inside a pocket of trapped air, a cruel,
oh,
unnatural bubble clinging to his life in the wreckage. The walls around him had sealed off when the boat sank, creating a tiny coffin of breath. But
thank.
this obviously like wasn't like the ideal rescue. This was more of a tomb. He was alone in the darkness, 100 feet beneath the ocean surface, and no one knew he was there.
Whoa.
I think about that. Okay, think about how dark that had to have been. You're probably so disoriented. You just were like, flipping around in a ship. You find a weird air pocket. You probably aren't even sure that you're alive at the point. You're like, you can't see your
Yeah.
hand in front of your face. You're like, how am I breathing? I know my ship sank.
Yeah.
And that just sounds like the most frightening thing I literally can't even picture that. It gives me claustrophobic. Isn't Tatum
Yeah.
claustrophobic?
Mm, a little bit.
I think that she says she doesn't want to scuba dive because she feels claustrophobic.
Oh,
But I can't imagine like the claustrophobia. What's the word for that?
that's
Claustrophobic?
good. Yeah. Nailed it.
Thank you. So there he is in a sinking boat. At first, Harrison stayed still, too afraid to move. Rightfully so. I'd be so confused what's going
I
on.
just don't get how it sunk so fast.
I mean, maybe this was over a period of, I mean, it actually sunk shockingly fast considering. I don't know like how fast, but it's not like he was like hours slowly sinking. I think it was like literally a wave capsized. So like it had all this weight of water pushing it down. It wasn't like a slow.
Good explanation.
Yeah. Shut up. I don't know, but they made it sound like it surprisingly sunk faster than you would think.
Hmm.
I imagine just because of how much water it got in it, like it sunk faster instead of just like a slow leak or something like that.
Yeah.
But obviously, that doesn't lead me to believe maybe fast is like 20 minutes. Who knows how fast?
Yeah.
But obviously, fast enough that he wasn't able to escape out of this bathroom when he
And
went.
the air got pocketed
Yeah,
stuck.
which
I
is
think you have to go
crazy.
fast, is don't you? Probably.
I would imagine it's like when you put like a, can't you do that with like a cup? Put a cup
Yeah.
underwater really fast and it will
Yeah.
hold the air.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, that decompression, like the change in your body pressure probably had to have hurt as well.
I don't think 100 feet's that deep though.
I don't know. I feel like when we go scuba diving, you have to decompress even if you're like greater than 40 feet, I think is what it is.
Mm,
Is it 70? What is it?
I'll look, but I think it's
There's no way that it's
150.
more than that. I think it's like 70 max. I don't know. Enough to probably put some weight on him. But I mean, yeah, you're right. I had to go fast enough to catch an air pocket.
It says 33 feet if you've been down there for a long time. For deep sea work. Um, yeah. So there's other things, but yeah, I guess you're right. Rarely you're right.
Oh my gosh, you're a jerk. But I'm proud of myself.
That's prolonged time too.
Right. So he definitely would have needed to decompress. if he was intending to go that low. So, but I mean, considering as an air pocket, maybe it affects him differently.
I think Gronk's wrong. Just kidding.
Gronk's never wrong. Um, okay, well, regardless, sheep ship must have sunk relatively quick. Is what I'm getting at. Do I have time frame? Not a chance. But do I think it's fast? Probably. At this time, at first, Harrison stayed still, too afraid to move. But after hours of sitting in freezing water, he knew he had to find a bigger air pocket or he would suffocate, which he's so brave for this. I'd be like, I just accept my fate. I'm in this little air pocket. Not a chance am I going to go try to open a door. What if more water comes in? What if there's not an air pocket? What if I can't get out? This is dark and scary. But he knows, like, obviously, if you're trapped in an air pocket, you breathe out carbon dioxide, not monoxide. Which one's poison? Carbon monoxide or dioxide?
Monoxide.
So he's breathing carbon dioxide. So, like, obviously, he's going to use up all the oxygen in this little bubble eventually. So, he did something unbelievably risky. He took a deep breath and plunged into the black water. He swam blindly through the flooded corridors, his hands grasping in the darkness, bumping into floating debris and what potentially could have been the bodies of his crew members. At one point, he brushed against the bloated corpse of a crewmate, nearly sending him into a panic of what he believed was a crewmate,
Oh, nasty.
or what we can imagine. And then he heard something. It was a splash. Something large was moving in the water near him. Harrison froze. He had no idea what it was, but in his mind, it could only be one thing: a shark. I would pee my pants. He pushed forward as fast as he could, his heart pounding until his hand finally touched metal. He pulled himself up and found a larger air pocket, which I'm shocked beyond belief. This one just over 4 feet high. And so it was actually enough to get his whole body out of the water. So now he's sitting
Thank.
on this little ledge, 100 feet below the water in a 4 foot length air pocket. But even in his new hiding place, he wasn't alone. All around him, he could hear large fish moving through the wreck, bumping into things, scavenging the bodies of his dead crewmates.
Ew.
But he was alive, but he was not alone. On the third day, 3 days later,
Jeez.
Harrison was barely holding on. His breaths were shallow, his body weak, his mind slipping into a fog of exhaustion and hunger. Then a thud. A dull, distant voice, or sorry, dull, distant noise vibrated through the wreckage above him. At first, he thought he was imagining it. The silence had been absolute for so long that his own thoughts had started to sound like voices. But then another thud. His pulse spiked. Someone was out there. With what little strength he had left, Harrison forced himself up, his fingers trembling as he pressed against the cold, rusted metal of his prison. He knocked a soft knock at first, and then a little harder. He held his breath, and for a moment there was nothing at all. Then suddenly, more movement. Something shifted in the water beyond the wall. Then a dull beam of artificial light cut through the pitch black darkness, the first light he'd seen in 3 days.
Holy smokes. That'd be
Ugh.
wild. I bet he's so happy.
I was like, yeah, you gotta be like, crying at this point. Like,
Yeah.
also, like, maybe, I mean, obviously, light is hard to imagine, I'm sure, but he probably has been having so many mind games on him that he's
Yeah.
like, what's real, what's not. But the glow danced eerily across the flooded wreckage as a figure descended. It was a diver. Harrison's chest tightened. He had been waiting for a rescue, but these men weren't looking for survivors. They were looking just for bodies. The diver, Nico van Heerden, was cautiously maneuvering through the wreck, methodically checking for the dead. His breathing echoed loudly inside his helmet, the only sound accompanying the eerie stillness of the sunken tomb. Then a hand shot out from the darkness. Harrison grabbed him, and for a horrifying second, Nico's body jerked back, his mind screaming
That'd be
that there's something.
terrifying.
I know. Like, that's like the ultimate jump scare.
I know.
I can't. And in these divers' helmets, they have radios. I imagine he's like, like screaming, like something's down here. Like, how
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
His his training obviously told him that no way the body, like, no one could have survived this. Like, they know
Yeah.
at this point the ship's been down there for 3 days, and so they obviously it's the last thing that they expected.
Hmm.
But his hand was warm and it moved. And when he grabbed the hand, it squeezed back. So at this point, they're like, we have life. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
A jolt of shock ripped through him. Through the mask, Nico's eyes widened. His breath hitched as he realized that he had what had just happened. Then, with an urgency he had never felt before, he shot to the surface, alerting the rescue team. They had to move fast, of course. They didn't know how much air that Harrison had. And on their second dive, the team carefully fitted Harrison with his own diving mask and radio, guiding him through the wreck. So at this point, like they found his little air bubble. They're getting him. There's actually video of all this, which is
Hmm.
crazy. We'll post. But so they put him on the radio on and they're like, can you see? Like he's like, yes. Can you hear me? Yes. Can you breathe? Yes. Like barely, right? If they pulled him up too quickly, we know that the rapid change in pressure would kill him. Like they could kill him like not instantly. You can kill him quickly, or he can get the bends. And the bends, you're gonna all that trapped nitrogen. You're just gonna bubble up, and that'd be a horrible lifestyle, and
Hmm.
that can kill you as well. So they had to move quickly, but they had to move smart. And so instead, they took him to a decompression chamber where he remained for a grueling 60 hours as his body slowly adjusted to the surface. And then after 5 long days trapped beneath the ocean, Harrison Okene stepped onto land and his nightmare was finally over because he had survived. And
Wow,
th-
that's crazy.
I know this story is like so remarkable to me because I think that they were saying that with the dimensions of the air pocket between the two or something like that, they think that he had about 60 hours of like usable oxygen that he could have had. And
Mhm.
considering it took him 3 days to get out, they're like he was like down to very limited time.
Empty.
Yeah, he was like running dry by
Mhm.
the time that the divers came and actually were able to give him oxygen.
Jeez.
So after this whole ordeal, Harrison was like, I'm never going to the ocean. Rightfully so. I would never set foot on a beach ever again.
Yeah.
But he's a baller because in 2015, he actually made a decision that was pretty shocking to everyone he knew. But he decided to face his fears and went on to become a professional scuba diver.
Whoa.
He went
That's
up,
wild.
I know. So he got certified and he could dive up to 164 feet deep. And so what once was like his fear, he now kind of embraces and welcomes as like a really interesting thing for him to do. But so there's like this interview that I watched, which I definitely recommend for everyone to watch. Harrison is so incredible to listen to his story, just like step by step what happened. He's very emotional. He talks about how when he gets on land, when he was rescued, he cried and cried and cried. Of course, I would as well. I would be so
Same.
selfish crying for me, being like, I was so scared. But he was saying how he cried because he thought that there was a chance that his crew members got out. Like he didn't think every single one of them had passed away. And he said that some of his crew members, there was a man who had a pregnant wife that he would never go on to meet his son. There was a man that was married for 55 years. There was another man who had a little girl that he never saw grow up. And he was just overwhelmed with the knowledge he had of these crewmen and that the life they don't get to live. He had the major survivor guilt,
Yeah.
which survivor guilt I can understand, but also like how bizarre, like just a miracle. Like this was nothing. It's not like he was being selfish and he survived and no one else did. Like this was a bizarre case that he was just generally being looked after.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harrison praised the Lord, of course, for the safety he was given so that he could be there to take care of his wife. Which like I said, kind of in the beginning, I love what Harrison said.
Yeah.
He's like, no one else could provide for my wife the way I do. I'm like,
Yeah.
like
That's
he's
awesome.
like, I am her protector. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I love that about him. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Baller.
I know. In his interview, he says that how he used to say that God is in us and he's all around us, but he didn't know it until now. And he says that he moves with us at every moment in time. He was quoted saying, bless you.
Sorry. Excuse me.
He was quoted saying, I knew I was going to die, but I just kept calling on God.
Sorry.
You know, sneezing.
Say
I'm
that
going to quote
again.
that one more time because it's so good and he kept sneezing through it.
Yeah.
Harrison was quoted saying, I knew I was going to die, but I just kept calling on God. And I love that quote because you can tell that it really captured the sheer terror that he really felt hopelessness. Like he was positive he was going to die.
Yeah.
Yet through it, it showed his unshakable faith. And despite being trapped in complete darkness, surrounded by death, he never stopped praying. And ultimately, he survived against all odds. And that is our story of the sole survivor, Harrison Okene.
Wow. That's wild.
So, like we usually do, like murder and different cases, like I just found this story so remarkable that I feel like we need to share it.
Yeah.
And so, and now he goes on. He has like incredible family. It sounds like scuba diving, doing interviews. He says
That's
that from
crazy.
the decompression stuff, like when he was in the air pocket, his legs were starting to swell, his stomach was starting to bloat, and that it was just like the weirdest sensation. He thought that fish were like starting to like eat his legs a little bit. Like,
Ew.
yeah, animals are trying to get to him. I was like that. Like, and it's sad because he goes on to say, of course, there was a lot of PTSD. So he would be sleeping with his wife in bed at night, and he would feel like his house is sinking, and he would wake up screaming and like literally trying to run out of the house because he's like
Yes.
trapped in this like dark image in his mind. I'm like, I can't imagine overcoming that,
Yeah.
like that trauma, like the darkness, the sinking, the lack of oxygen. Like he's literally a hero to me.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Overcoming his fears and going scuba diving. Like how
Yeah.
incredible.
That's cool. That's
Anyways,
crazy.
so I love that story. I just want to share it with you today, and that's what I have for you.
Thanks. Yeah. That's
What
great.
about you? You are the trivia boy now. And I know you're looking at questions earlier. Did you find anything?
Not trivia today. This is just facts.
Okay.
Actually, we'll make it trivia.
Okay.
So, how many minutes did it take cops to catch Israel Keys, the infamous killer, after he abducted and killed a barista in Alaska in 2012? What gave him away is his ATM card. It says. So is it
How many
50
minutes?
Yeah,
That's
minutes.
crazy. It must have been
60
fast.
minutes,
Okay.
7 minutes,
Wow.
or 12 minutes.
That is so fast. Okay,
Mhm.
I feel like I remember this story, but I don't remember it being so fast. Because it's fast, I want to say like the 7 because like what are the chances it's minutes? But I'm gonna go 12. It seems like a safe bet.
Okay. Number 2. How many years did John Wayne Gacy hide in plain sight as a community clown while
Ew.
burying 33 victims under his house in 1978 when he was arrested?
That's the worst thing I've ever heard. I don't know
30
if I'm-
years, 35 years, or 39 years?
I'm gonna guess 30.
Okay. The estimated number of bodies still unidentified from the 1980s reign of Mexico's Highway of Death killers who preyed on bus passengers. 1,200,
Oh,
2,000, or 4,000?
1,400.
I didn't say 1,000.
Oh, wait, what was the first one?
1,200.
Okay, 1,200.
All right. So number 1 answer was 7 minutes.
Okay, that seemed like so specific. I wanted to say that, but 7 seems insane.
Yeah. 35 years for John Wayne Gacy hiding in plain sight, and 2,000 victims are the estimated number of unidentified bodies killed on the Mexico's Highway of Death. Maybe that's a
insane.
case we could do soon.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, that's all we have today. We'll come back next week with another episode of Siblings in Crime.
Siblings in Crime.